Hey guys, welcome to Twin Mind Design's how-to video for a hallway table. Here's a picture of what we are making. The best way, in my mind, to make the top out of some kind of older rustic looking wood, and the cheapest way is to use a railroad tie. You can find these at almost any Home Depot or Lowe's, or even at some gardening stores. They range anywhere from maybe $20 to $40, and you can make the whole top out of that. So what we're gonna do is actually cut it in half and make sure that both sides are cleaned up. As you can see, this side already looks pretty good, and the other side is pretty dirty and might even have some little pieces of like cement or rock stuck into it. So we're gonna clean that up with a wire brush. All right, so after you cut the railroad tie in half, the next part obviously is to cut it to the length that you need for your space. We are going for 55 inches. So we are marked right here at 55. And then if you want to, what you can do is when you cut this other portion off, is that leftover, you can turn it so it is going the opposite direction to kind of cap off. I'll show you that in a minute. Of the, all the other pieces of the log, especially, on this one, you can see the huge color difference. But because you cut your ends off, right, you have these pieces that are worn on all sides. So all that you need to do is you put one of these on each end, and as you can see, it matches, right, the worn piece of the wood. So you'll just turn it vertical, this way, and put it on each end. You can do the same with the other side, and then it'll cover up all of the kind of unworn edges. The last thing you are gonna do with the table saw is send it through one more time, barely cutting off the edge that you are going to glue to the other piece of the top. As you can see, there's obviously some parts are lower than others, but this gives you a perfectly flat, clean edge that will glue a lot better than if you were to have it really uneven, so that all pieces weren't touching. All right. So there is the kind of template, I guess, for the finished top. Nothing's, glued together or anything, but if you can see, what I've done is, like I said, you have your edges all the way around that look worn, right, from how you cut it. So you can see that on both ends. Then, like I said, you're gonna run it through the table saw one last time, and you're gonna cut off every edge so that you have a very, very clean edge. You can take knots out, right? Because they're not gonna, glue won't stick to them very well, so you can get those off. But I have all clean edges. Both ends, on the inside, both sides, clean all the way around, so the glue will stick really well. You're gonna obviously put the glue on all the way down. Then you're gonna use I just use scrap wood, a little stick, and you just spread it out. All right, so I have my boards glued together. Obviously you need to make your edges as seamless as possible, but can't do anything else with this until it dries. So you can see how close all the edges are. And then again, you know, this will be capped off on the end with another board so you won't see those kind of new wood edges. All right, so while that's drying, what we can do is we can start working on the leg assembly with these really cool vintage legs I found. So here they are right here. Obviously we're only going to use 2 of them, one on each end. And my wife decided that she does want kind of a connecting board across the bottom. So I'm going to do that piece as well. I think I'm just going to use maybe a 2x4 for that. We'll see. I do have a little bit wider board that I might be able to use. But we will start working on the legs. So I know these already, you know, look pretty cool and have a cool kind of finish on them. But they do have a whole lot of mold on them. The place I found them at was actually storing them outside of their shop. So I am going to sand them, clean them up a little bit, and then we'll repaint them and kind of age them. So you know, we'll go through that process later on, but I'm going to use 2 different types of sanders. Obviously your hand sander here with the round disc on it, and then I'm going to use this little multi-tool to get in more of the tight spaces. Obviously you can see that it has, you know, the points on it. So yeah, let's clean up the mold and get a bunch of the kind of caulking that they tried to fill all the cracks with off, so it's a little bit more level. We'll see what we do with those cracks once we get them cleaned up. All right, so I've sanded them, gotten as much of the dirt and mold off as I could. They look pretty good. Here's the one over here. So looking pretty good, but one of the bottoms was a little bit, the very, very bottom of it was a little bit rotted out, so I'm having to cut off just a very thin layer, which you can actually see right here. It was obviously very wet, but now I have to cut the other one off. All right, so I have 2 sets of what are going to be turned into the feet. What I'm going to do is just connect, you know, these 2 together, obviously, and then I can sand them as one block, which will make them look a little bit more seamless. We'll fill in all the seams with paintable caulking, so you won't even necessarily know that they're there. And then what we need to do is just add 2x4s, one on each, one across the front and one across the back, and that will give it a little bit fancier of a look. So I'll show you that in a minute. So here is the base for the legs that I built. Obviously, you can do whatever you want, but what I need to do now is just sand them as one piece and then fill in all the cracks with the paintable caulking and paint them. All right, so rather than the paintable caulking, I actually found that I had a brand new case here, I guess you'd call it, of the DAP plastic wood. So I'm gonna, you know, put this on fill all the little screw holes and the cracks and all the different pieces of it. And then obviously that will have to dry, and then we can sand it and it will look just like one piece of wood. All right, so I just finished with the wood filler. As you can see, it fills in all the cracks. Essentially, once we paint it and sand it, it'll look pretty close to just being, you know, one solid piece of wood. All right, so all I did was take a mixture of different colors of paint. I put a base coat on of like a tan, and then I had gray and a dark brown, and I just kind of mixed it on randomly, almost like camouflage looking. And you can see the light tan come through on the corner of that one right there. But once we put the white coat on of actual paint rather than spray paint and then sand it, what this will do is it'll have different colors coming through when you sand down through the layers. which will, you know, hopefully the goal is to match what the different colors coming through on the white posts that we're using for legs. Hopefully it'll match it. All right, so I've got my dowel pins in the outside pieces, the edges. Now all I have to do is line them up, trace them, and then drill them out so that they go into, obviously, the main part of the tabletop. All right, so I've got the top totally put together now. Pretty much seamless. I did end up putting 2 screws in the very back just to help give it a little bit more support, but turned out pretty good. All the edges are pretty flat and even. There you go. All right, now we just need to do the white coat and let it dry, do a second coat, and then sand away. See what it looks like, see if we can get it to match. All right, so all the pieces have the 2 coats of white paint on them. Just want to show you what they look like now before I kind of dirty them up and sand them and hopefully get them to match the posts. All right, so just finished aging this one bottom of the leg here. And as you can see, it looks pretty close. It's obviously not exact, but if I didn't necessarily point it out to you, you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell the difference. So I need to do the clear coat still, but I wanted to show you that all I did was sand it a little bit with a very fine grit wheel, and then I have this very rusty, essentially a doorstop, but it's actually a wedge from a railroad. I kind of just took it and just colored, kind of like a crayon, on the wood, and that's what made it look just as dirty as the post. All right, got both the bottoms on the legs. I would say they match with the wood pretty good. Look like it was made with it. So need to do the tops now, and then the bracket that connects the 2 legs at the bottom. All right, so I've got the bottom totally hooked together. Used this stool to help kind of hold it up while I was doing that. So all I need to do now, this is the back of it, but all I need to do now is just screw from underneath to get the top on. All right, we have the top screwed on. My dog's under there checking it out too. Hey, Max. So there you go. All we have left to do is decide if we want to do a clear coat on the top, because it's a little rough. I think it might pull some splinters if you put like a jacket on it or something like that. But that's pretty much it. All right, here is the completely finished product with the coats of polyurethane on it. As you can see, the top got a whole lot darker, which I knew would happen, and honestly, I kind of like it better. But it seems to match our floors pretty well. So there you go.